What did the pandemic ruin more than we realize? This might just be local, but where I live, a shit ton of businesses closed. I mean, half of them were closed. Not just because of the shutdown, they were closed permanently. The health system is wrecked. Way too many nurses got burned out and left the profession. Independent, smaller, DIY music venues never really recovered. People's driving is so out of whack. My only concern is to make it home in one piece. I went to go get the Taco Bell at 10 o'clock and it was closed. My social, work life, after living like a hermit for 2 years and working from home, it's taking me a long time to go out like before. Young people's desire to go into healthcare. We won't realize it for a generation or so, but healthcare in America was already chronically understaffed. The pandemic burning out medical professionals and discouraging young people from going into healthcare is going to have a negative effect on the quality of healthcare, not only in the United States, but other hard-hit countries, too. Any type of 24/7 businesses is just a memory. The cost of living is pretty fucked. Night shift people lives. Nothing is ever open late anymore. Essentials versus non-essential employees. Better known as those who had to show up physically in person, and those allowed to stay home. Biggest division in the workplace. Mentally it will never be the same in the workplace. Feels like it's a more to each their own sense of living. People don't appear to be as connected as before the pandemic. Used car market is completely fucked, as are flight prices. As a teacher, I can say that it's definitely affected kids in a way people don't realize. Kids who had their first year of school, or even second, during the pandemic act quite different than kids who had a normal introduction to school. Many of them seem to have fewer social skills and higher anxiety than kids from previous years. No school on snow days. It ruined me on traffic. For one glorious year, as an essential worker I had the roads almost entirely to myself. It was beautiful. The lockdowns happened during my last semester of university. I've never had an in-person job, only work from home, which I realized is a blessing but also makes it feel like, I don't know, like it's not real. I have no work friends, have never met my supervisor in person. I do all my work from my desk in my room. It feels like pretend. I'm not sure if anyone else feels the same way, but my perception of time hasn't really returned back to normal since then. My perception on money. I worked so hard to pay off debt, save up for a new house, get promotions. Now with the rise of housing costs and inflation, I feel like money is literally such a made-up thing and I have no control over anything even with all the right decisions. I feel like everyone is more bitter now. Like we all saw through the sham of society. Time feels different now. Things just feel off compared to pre-2020. I think the pandemic was the nail in the coffin for a lot of businesses that were already on the edge of just making it, and others have continued to struggle because, well, things are just more expensive. I've noticed I no longer go to sit-down restaurants because my grocery bills are so expensive. Why go spend $40 to $50 for one meal when it costs $150 to $200 every 2 weeks for groceries? It just doesn't make sense anymore for a lot of people. I think the dining experience changed as a whole post-pandemic. Lots of places had to resort to DoorDash-type businesses to make up for losses, and that in itself has changed the dining experience. Every single fucking time I go to the store they've raised prices on something. I tend to buy a lot of the same things frequently, so I am able to keep track of prices. I was getting this bag of iceberg lettuce for $2.19 a couple weeks ago and they just popped it up to $2.99. That's a crazy jump. I can't afford like 90% of the stuff in there anymore. It's like $5 for a can of goddamn soup. Soup used to be cheap food that you could stock up on, now it's a luxury item. Yes. I am glad that people had the ability to work from home and still meet their financial needs. I'm so glad that those resources were available. And, there is no nostalgia for quarantine for the essential workers. It's hard to hear others talk about how they kept themselves busy or took up a new hobby when I can only remember being so overwhelmed and stressed. Our town directly said that snow days are a joyful part of childhood and they would keep snow days. I'm sure it also has to do with power outages, if some kids don't have power and can't tune in, or if teachers from other towns don't have power and can't